Well, the time is just gone 14 minutes past four, and today being my final day with the iftar drive and building up to the time of iftar in Johannesburg, handing you over to Maulana Yunus Kawanga in just about an hour from now. That will be at around quarter past five, and he'll take you through to the time of iftar. Today being the 27th day of Ramadan, Alhamdulillah, and the day of Jummah, we trust and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues blessing us with His mercy and showers His blessing, His forgiveness as well. And more importantly, achieving the purpose of this month of Ramadan, also doing and fulfilling our right to this great day of Jum'ah. And also, as we head sadly towards the end of the month of Ramadan, Allah knows best whether it's going to be 2 more days that we pass or it's going to be 3 more days, because today being the 27th. So, inshallah, we will take a look now at the possibility of the moon being sighted in South Africa. Now, we've done it just a few weeks ago, and time has flown, with the principal of Darul Uloom Erasmia, Madresah Ibaadur Rahmaan, Mufti Abdullah Dockrat. We spoke about the moon for the month of Ramadan. Now we're talking about the moon for Shawwal and the moon for the day of Eid. Mufti Saab, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan so much for your time. And as always, welcome to Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair.
Yes, Maulana, time really obviously has flown, and it just seemed like the other day you and I were having this discussion, and now we're having another discussion, but related to the moon, obviously. And we know that over the next 2 days, and comes Sunday evening, inshallah, the Ummah will be scanning the skies once again and looking out for the moon. And we've seen this time around, obviously, the age of the moon, from the time it's born until the time, the possibility of it being sighted, well, close on to about 29 hours, if my memory serves me right. So, Maulana, let's look ahead at what are some of the likely scenarios that could possibly play out.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think in comparison to the moon of Ramadan, bringing the first of Ramadan in, it was much easier, but this one is slightly difficult. It's a bit more tricky and complicated. So the elongation of the moon, etc., is not the same. Although the moon is 29 hours old, South Africa, generally speaking, most of South Africa, it would be very difficult to actually see the moon. The northern parts like Pretoria, Polokwane, there could be a possibility of seeing the moon there. But generally speaking, in South Africa, it would be quite difficult to see the moon. But further up, Zimbabwe and those areas, Harare, etc., and Windhoek, they would be much easier for, the moon to be seen. So in Southern Africa, definitely, the possibility of seeing the moon is quite high. But in South Africa, there is a chance, but, it's quite difficult in South Africa. So we don't know, if the moon will be, visible in South Africa because of the, visibility charts that are available to us. But in South Africa, the northern parts, maybe Polokwane, Pretoria, those areas might be able to see it, but they're also quite difficult because of the elongation of the moon. It will be quite difficult. It's in the B zone, which is quite difficult for to view the moon with the naked eye. So we might have an issue this Eid again. And this is not to create any mischief or corruption, but this movement has been going on for some time now. To take from the neighboring countries, and so we might have a bit of an issue this Eid.
Well, we hope we don't have an issue, Maulana, because I think more than sighting the moon for the month of Ramadan, the more controversy is surrounding the sighting of the moon for Shawwal, and which obviously signals the end of the month of Ramadan and the beginning of Shawwal. And let's just understand, Maulana, because I think sometimes. Many of us saying that, what, in the past we've seen the moon in 16, 17 hours. This time around, it's over a day, 29 hours we're talking about. So, why? And let's understand this term when you talk about elongation as well. I mean, is this a seasonal thing? Is this something that, we need to think about? Because, perhaps maybe in the winter months, for example, it may be easier to sight the moon compared to the summer months, or is it because of the season or the time of the year that we in at the moment?
Yeah, I think that for ease of reference, listeners could just go to Hilal Watch, and the ease of visibility chart there. And every month the visibility chart is posted. There are some people that are dedicated to the viewing of the moon, and so yes, it is obviously based on the season, based on where we find ourselves in the world. We are like at the southern tip of Africa, and so our positioning as a country also has an effect on the visibility, etc. So yes, definitely. If you go to Hilal Watch, you can find them on Twitter, on X, and the charts are available there. I think listeners can actually go and view the charts. The charts have been sent out. You can actually view, where the moon would be, at the time of viewing in South Africa, and where the possibilities of seeing it also where the moon would be and how difficult, the viewing would be. So yeah, I think it's easier, for listeners to go there to Hilal Watch. They are dedicated. You find them on X. They are dedicated to, the monthly viewing of the moon, and it would be much easier to understand from there.
Yes, but also, Molana, let's just talk a bit. I know, and what we're going to try and do is as I'm talking to you right now, I'm going to try and see if I can get onto Hilal Watch as well right now, and just to follow what you are saying. But Molana, just looking at the likely scenarios in terms of where are the possibilities the highest of seeing the moon?
Yes,
Because to a large extent, we always wait for Cape Town, and Cape Town seems to be the area of final or last resort before a
yeah.
decision is actually taken.
I think the reason why we wait for Cape Town is because the sunset is later there, and the moon set is also later. But this time round, the possibility of Cape Town seeing it is less than actually Pretoria and Polokwane. These areas will be able to see the moon much easier. So although Cape Town is the last province that is normally consulted because the sunset is the latest and the moon set is the latest, the possibility of seeing it in Cape Town is far slim and far less in comparison to Pretoria and Polokwane, in these areas. So the moon would be more visible in the northern parts in comparison to Cape Town this time round. So yeah, that's very unlikely that they would see the moon in Cape Town.
So, and obviously, this is weather permitting as well. If we're talking about the northern part of the country, when you're talking about places like Pretoria and Polokwane, Mufti Sahib.
It's quite overcast currently, and also the forecasts are that it is overcast. So yeah, it's gonna it's a bit of a challenge this time around to actually see the moon. So look, there is a possibility that it can still be the moon would still be seen here in Pretoria and Polokwane in the northern areas, maybe Venda in those areas, but the rest of the country like Durban, etc., it would be like quite difficult for anyone to for a naked eye sighting of the moon. It would be quite difficult. But there's always a possibility. It's not like impossible. But we're definitely going to have, so that's one scenario that the northern areas, the skies are clear, and someone sees the moon, and we're all good. And Alhamdulillah, everyone will have Eid together. We'll have a unanimous Eid. And look, on Monday, most likely, it's the most of the world is going to be having Eid. It's not only the African countries, but I was reading the news, and I think Saudi Arabia also are having Eid on Monday, and the rest of the world possibly. I was looking at the moon charts as well. The rest of the world would be having Eid. So it's in the unlikely event that South Africa does not see the moon, it would be probably only South Africa in the entire world that would not be having
Wow.
Eid. The this is something that we have to really think about. So if you look at the visibility charts, you will see that there's a small area in South Africa where the visibility of the moon would be possible, and then after that it goes to the next, our neighboring countries, like Zimbabwe. They've got a very high possibility of seeing the moon, etc. So yeah, we probably, the one scenario is where we do see the moon, and then inshallah everyone has Eid on Monday. That is the whole of South Africa, the neighboring countries, etc. But in the event that we don't see the moon, the second scenario is that the organizations that are happily, and are happy to follow the neighboring countries, there's definitely going to be, there's already talk about it in the communities that, those that are following the neighboring countries and are willing to accept that view that Eid will be on Monday for them. And then those that are taking the, strong stance of Uksa only to take from South Africa and the borders of South Africa, they probably have a Eid on a different day, that's Tuesday. So we,
Yes.
it does, and I think that people need to like look beyond this of controversy. This is not controversy. This is a reality. It's something that's happening. It's on the ground. Maybe people are not aware because we live in our little pockets of people. We're not aware, but like people start Ramadan also before time. Others are following Saudi. Others are following their own countries. And the same thing with Eid. We might be isolated in thinking that this is just um, the whole of South Africa. It's not. It's those people that are affiliated to, organizations like UXA, etc., that are following. But the rest of the people, they have contact today with the social media, with their own countries, and many of them follow their own countries, especially those from Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, etc. So, like we mentioned previously on the same topic, that we're living in a multicultural society, and the need to consider taking moon sightings from the neighboring countries is something that is a reality. It's going on for far too long now. With the delay that years have gone from the last time we had this discussion. It was 4 years ago when there was a difference in the Eid days. And so this is something that we've always been saying that that needs to be considered seriously.
But Molana, I think once again, I think with the, if the by any chance the moon is not sighted in South Africa, we can actually foresee that there is going to be huge controversy. There's going to be huge debate. There's going to be huge discussion. And I've always said it, and I think over the years, in covering the moon sighting, and I think you and I also had this discussion where we said that why do we always wait for the 11th hour to have these discussions? And especially when we're talking about moon sightings and accepting the neighboring countries, because we know that there are neighboring countries that accept South African moon sightings. Okay. And I know there were discussions in the past by the likes of the United Ulama Council of South Africa and some of the other ulama bodies in it. But why are these discussions always, these questions arise now, whereas you've got an entire year as Jamiats, as ulama bodies in the Southern African region to sit down, discuss, and issue one blanket ruling so that everybody in each country understands what the position is as far as the countries are concerned. And that obviously would eliminate any controversy and any other further discussion, and more importantly, the disunity amongst the ummah.
I think the key word that you're speaking about here is discussion. And, discussion, like myself and you are having a discussion here, but, to open this up and maybe bring, to the same panel discussion that we're having between me and you, add someone, from the, the UXA that, and listen to why they don't want to take, because myself and you having this discussion it's only limited to me and you, but, then we put the phone down, and then Uksa comes and gives their view, and there's no like a discussion. So I think like like you try and have a discussion, but if someone doesn't want to engage with you and they feel like what there's nothing in what you are saying, then obviously you can't have a discussion. So the 11th hour discussions, it's not something that we haven't had discussions. We've had discussions about this, and I don't think that UXA does not know this view. UXA knows this view. They know the organizations that are involved in this view, and they know that there's merit to this view. But for some reason or the other, and like obviously the people that are not taking the line and saying, well, okay, we'll only take South African sightings. They are considered to be the fitna makers, those that are creating mischief. Whereas, if you're on the ground and you're actually looking at the realities on the ground, I mean, in our communities, really, you hardly find South African workers. The majority of workers are foreign workers. They're either from Malawi or they're from Zimbabwe or from Mozambique, and you hardly find South African workers. And these are also Muslims, and they are also following their countries, and their countries are on the doorstep. They're around the corner. And so these realities, these discussions, it's not like it's not happening. It's just what happens is like everyone is just like hoping that what, hey, inshallah the Eid will be together, inshallah the Eid will be together, and hoping that the movement will die out of taking from the neighboring countries and saying that what, those are isolated views, we don't have to follow them, because the majority of Indian and Malay people do follow UXA. And so you're not going to really have a discussion unless there's sincerity on both sides to say, look, like from our side, from my side, and like at our masjid, alhamdulillah, we cater for both sides. Those that are following neighboring countries, which is my view, we have a Eid for them, and those that are having with the local sightings, we have an Eid for them. We open to this. We like not fighting about it. Whoever feels that, look, we don't want to be celebrating, we don't want to be fasting on the day of Eid, and the neighbors are like closer to us than Cape Town, and we want to have Eid with our neighbors, then that view does exist. There's merit to that view, and we'll enjoy our Eid on Monday. But those that feel that no, we should only take from our from our country and the borders of our country, and they want to stick to that view, well, there's merit in that also, and you can have your Eid on that day. But I don't think that these type of differences are bad. I think that for us, because we're living through it, it might be something bad, but there's definitely goodness that will come out it eventually. When I had these discussions previously with ulama bodies, I think there was a time when Maulana Yunus Patel Rahmatullahi from Durban was having Eid with Cape Town, but Gauteng refused to have Eid with Cape Town. They were driving from one province to the other, make sure that they took the testimony face to face, etc. And then the reluctancy in the Gauteng ulama slowly changed, and South Africa then became united, and they had one Eid. And yes, the ulama of the past made a lot of effort to unite South Africa, and I think that effort should continue. It shouldn't stop. It should continue, because there's an influx of many communities in our country, and we are living in a multicultural society. Even our communities that were predominantly Indian or predominantly Malay, there's influx of many, many other nationalities who are also Muslim. And consideration for them is also important. So I
Well,
don't think
certainly,
that
Maulana. Yeah,
Mm.
I think Maulana, what you're saying is very true, because look at the dynamics have actually changed in this country a lot, and the face of the Muslim Ummah has changed in this country. We are no longer that traditional Malay and Indian Muslims in this country. In fact, in many areas, we actually outnumbered by the amount of foreign Muslims who are in certain suburbs, in certain areas, in certain towns as well. And I recall going to a place like Zanin, for example, and I was shocked to see during Maghrib, the masjid was full, packed to capacity. And I was told that 95% of the musallis in that masjid were all foreigners as well. Now, that just gives an example of one town. And again, these things are likely to come up because, like I'm saying, is in one town, in one small town, you can have possibly you're going to have two Eids. And that's why I still maintain one thing, Molana, that yes, we're talking about discussion and those things, but at the end of the day, it's not a discussion that you should be having at the 11th hour. Issue something. I'm sure at this point in time, UXA has enough knowledge. The ulama from all the other countries have sufficient knowledge. They've had these discussions in the past. Revisit and says, people, listen, this is the situation. This is how we're going to move forward from here, and issue out a formal communication and say this has been agreed, signed by the various bodies, and possibly that will eliminate a lot of problems. But unfortunately, Molana, once again, this seems to create a lot more division in the ummah than uniting the ummah.
I agree. Obviously we are in a phase now. It's a transitioning phase, and maybe, we would see the transition. Where UXA would consider. And look, it's not like something that I haven't heard. I've heard, that UXA are considering taking from the neighboring countries, but like it dies out. They say they're going to consider, and then for like a year or two or three, like there's no difference in the moon sightings. All the moon sightings are corresponding, our neighbors and us, we're all the same. And look, we're doing moon sightings every single month. It's not like we just wake up during Ramadan and eat and have like, hey, all of a sudden now we involved in moon matters. It's like every single month we're doing this. And so they just hope that it will just die out. But so for like 2 years you don't have any issues, and then out of the blue, 2 years later you have this same issue coming up over and over again. And like I think you are correct, that the ulama need to now sit down and get to some common ground regarding this. Yeah, but there's no discussion. I think that is where the issue is. There's no discussion. This is limited to one or two people just saying, and then others just saying, well, let them just blow their trumpet and let them have their say, but we're still going to go with whatever we want to do. And I think this is something which is detrimental for our societies. But you can only do so much. You can only say so much. More than that, you live a peaceful life, be happy, and don't get too involved in too much of issues and controversy. Those that want to follow the neighboring countries and see some merit in there, let them be. And those that feel like, look, and again, I think. We live in our little societies and our little radio stations and whatever, and we believe that everyone is actually listening to us, so everyone really cares about what we got to say. And the truth and reality is that people have localized deen, and whatever the local people of their community are doing, this is what they do. And so look, this is a national matter. It is something which is very important, and I think that discussion around this is very important. But I mean, we've been doing this program now, Brother Inayat, for some years. I think it's like 3, 4 years going now. And I remember the
Exactly,
years when we
Maulana.
had our own. I remember the years when we had our own Eid, or we started Ramadan the day before, and we've been having this discussion. And it's not like UXA or those organizations that are not taking from the neighboring countries are not aware of it. They are aware of it, and there is no discussion. That's the truth and reality. There is no discussion around this matter. And really, every time I've brought it up myself, it was just, it gets shoved under the carpet, and, people forget about it, and they wait for an opportunity like this again. And then, we are the fitna makers, and we are creating corruption in the earth. And that is not our intention. So, you reach a point where you just reach a point of acceptance and say, well, okay, look, this is my view. This is the view of certain ulama. And we've tried to have the discussion, but the discussion does not go further than where it is right now. It's exactly here. It's like you have, half are saying this and half are saying that. And like in my own community, I can tell you that, there's a large amount of people that, if the moon is not visible in South Africa on Sunday evening, but the neighboring countries do see it, there's a large amount of, people that would be joining us to have Eid on Monday. And there's a large amount of people that will be having Eid on Tuesday if you don't see the moon in South Africa. But again, like everything else, we understand that the world is a small place. Here again, there's really a need for it, but it seems like some people just don't see the need, to address this issue seriously.
Well, Mufti Saab, let's see what happens comes Sunday evening, inshallah. But I think what we need to do is firstly is that broom. We need to hide that broom, or we need to break that broom so nothing gets swept under the carpet going forward, inshallah. But
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that myself and you have been having this discussion for 3 years or 4 years, so we like understand, where the discussion goes, But it's 3 years or 4 years. I mean, it doesn't take that long. And like, even if I've got a difference of opinion and you feel my opinion is not correct, then sit with me, explain to me your view, put it on paper, say, look here, this is why we're saying this, this, and if it makes, a good. If it has good proof and it makes good sense to me, and then I should be man enough to say, look, well, it's true. What you're saying is correct, and let me, take my view and throw it away, and let's accept your view. But we don't bring people together. We just, leave these discussions open ended, and it doesn't get resolved. So you'll bring this up over and over and over and over again, but it just gets thrown aside. So, like from our point of view, we if the neighboring countries see the moon, we're going to be celebrating Eid on Monday. And if UXA does, the majority that follow UXA, if they feel they want to have Eid on Tuesday, then Alhamdulillah, we are not fighting with anyone. We will say Eid Mubarak to them on Tuesday. We're not pushing any agendas. There's no agenda here. I mean, what agenda would we have, except consideration for our general society and community? And it would be nice to have an open discussion. Like today is the 27th. Maybe tomorrow get Maulana Ibrahim Baum from the UXA, because normally he has the program after I have the program, or he has the program before I have the program, and then he has his view. Maybe put the two of us together on, yeah, let's have a discussion about it. Why not?
exactly. I think it's a very good idea, Mufti Saab. Let's look at that as an option. But for now, Mufti Saab, Jazakallah so much for your time with us this afternoon, inshallah. Allah accept, Allah reward all your efforts as well, and also all your sacrifices during this month of Ramadan as well, and out of Ramadan as well. Allah Ta'ala reward you fully for that. And we're always thankful, we're always appreciative of you taking time out for us
Barakallah
right
feekum,
here on Salam
jazakallah khair
Media.
for the opportunity. Always a pleasure being on.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Mufti Abdullah Dockrat with us from Pretoria, and looking at the possibility of the moon being sighted in South Africa. And once again, as we always say, this discussion comes up over and over again, and it's about time. Really, it's about time, because this is creating a lot of problems, and this is about time that the ulama bodies get together with the neighboring countries, with the ulama bodies in the neighboring countries, because it's always a discussion that we are having when it comes to the moon of Eid. And we've got an entire year, and we've been covering this for the last 3-4 years. We've been saying it over and over again. Why are these discussions not taking place during the year or throughout the year? And comes Ramadan, comes Eid, you've got a final communication and a final agreement that has been reached. Because once again, as Mufti Sahib mentioned, we are going to have in the same masjid, in the same town, you may have Eid namaz on one day and Eid salah on the next day in the same masjid. You may have your neighbor making Eid while you fasting. This is likely to happen once again. But again, the ulama need to obviously come together. They need to get their act together, and they need to start, obviously, seriously start these discussions on these matters, but more importantly, reach agreement so that there is no disunity within the Muslim Ummah. With that, I'm going to go for a quick break, and we come back. It's Voices from Palestine.